All right. Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Jasmine Rodriguez, and I am the Grants and Outreach Coordinator for the Office of Congressman Joaquin Castro. If you are new to these sessions, our office hosts the Texas 20 Grant Series year-round. These are virtual sessions featuring guest speakers from various federal agencies, where they present on some of their annual opportunities and answer any of your questions. Now, I would like to welcome our guests for today from the U.S. National Science Foundation. We have Dr. Rosalind Roz Hobson Hargraves, who is Division Director for the Division of the Undergraduate Education, DUE, Division of Undergraduate Education, DUE, the Division of Undergraduate Education in NSF Directorate for Education and Human Resources, strengthens STEM education in 2- and 4-year colleges and universities. We also have Dr. Jolene Jesse. She is the Acting Division Director for the Division of Research on Learning in Formal and Informal Settings, or DRL, within NSF's Directorate for Education. DRL invests in projects to improve the effectiveness of STEM learning for people of all ages. And then also we have Jeremy Leffler, who is an outreach specialist in the policy office in the Division of Institution and Award Support within the Foundation's Office of Budget, Finance, and Award Management. Since coming to NSF in 2003, his primary duties have included development and implementation of communication strategies that inform the research community as well as NSF staff about NSF proposal and award policies and procedures. Now, just some ground rules. We'll go ahead and have our presenters present, and then if you have any questions, you can use the raise your hand function, or you can put them in the chat, and our presenters may be able to pick them from the chat during their presentation, but we might wait till the very end. So just use either function, chat or raise your hand. All right, I'm going to hand it off to our NSF folks.
Thank you, Jasmine, and thanks for this opportunity to be here with you today to talk to you a little bit about the National Science Foundation, and specifically our Directorate for STEM Education, and even more specifically, the Division of Undergraduate Education, also the Division of Research on Learning in Formal and Informal Settings. So as Jasmine mentioned, I'm Rosalind or Roz Hobson Hargraves. I have the pleasure of serving as the Division Director in the Division of Undergraduate Education. If you could go to the next slide. So I want to start by talking a little bit about our entire directorate. And our entire directorate focuses on excellence in STEM education at all levels and all settings. So we support the mission of the National Science Foundation by really providing opportunities for investigators to strengthen undergraduate, graduate, informal, formal, K-12 education, really going from, I like to say, pre-K to gray. We fund cutting edge research and evaluation projects across all disciplines. And our goal is to have a national impact on preparing and supporting a diverse STEM workforce and informed citizenry. So if you go to the next slide. So our directorate, as I mentioned, 2 of the divisions, we actually have 4 divisions. The 2 that I didn't mention earlier are the Division of Graduate Education, which, as you might take from the introduction, focuses on graduate education in all STEM disciplines. And then we also have our Division of Equity for Excellence in STEM, which runs the gamut of undergraduate, graduate, postdoc, educational research, but they also focus on really addressing issues around equity, around broadening participation in STEM education. We also have our Division of Research on Learning in Informal and Informal Settings, which Dr. Jolene Jesse will talk about after I'm done, and then the Division of Undergraduate Education, which I will speak to now. So if you could go to the next slide. So the Division of Undergraduate Education strengthens STEM education by improving infrastructure, instruction, teaching, learning, really supporting undergraduate STEM education across all STEM disciplines supported by the National Science Foundation. We not only do research in undergraduate education, but we also fund human capital programs that go to provide opportunities for students to study STEM disciplines and also in the area of teacher preparation. So really preparing future STEM teachers at the K-12 level. So if you go to the next slide, I'm going to talk to you about, while we have several programs, I'm going to talk to you about 3 of our programs that I think may be especially relevant and informative for you today. So my first program is a new program that we just started. It's called the IU's Innovation in 2-Year College STEM Education. We are accepting our first set of proposals to this new program this December. So the deadline is December 13, 2023. And we are focused on 2-year colleges. So broadening, improving instruction, improving educational opportunities and faculty development. This program really does run the gamut of what undergraduate STEM education or how we could support and improve undergraduate STEM education at our 2-year colleges. Next slide. The program has 2 tracks. One is focused on the academic experiences of our students. So if you can imagine that one track would focus really on the educational experience of the student and how to enrich, enhance, and improve that. And the second track really focuses on improving the institution and supporting the institutional infrastructure. So leveraging, we call that our leveraging institutional strengths and innovation. So are there ways in which we can improve the infrastructure, improve the laboratories, improve faculty development, or provide faculty development opportunities. If you go to the next slide. So in order to be eligible to apply to this track or submit a proposal in this program, it needs to be led by a 2-year college. 4-year institutions and professional organizations may partner with a 2-year college as a subaward or collaborator, but we want to put 2-year colleges at the fore. So they need to be the lead institution on any proposals that come into this track. And proposals may be come in any discipline that is currently supported by the National Science Foundation. So we're talking about the broad gamut of STEM disciplines. If you go to the next slide. The primary contact for this program is Dr. Kaylin Owens. So her email is there on this slide, and there's a team that's supporting the 2-year college program. So if she's not available, I'm sure she can get you to one of our other program officers. Once again, we're really excited. This is the newest program in our division, and it provides an opportunity for us to think through or fund research and innovations in STEM education at our 2-year colleges. Can you go to the next slide? So the next program I want to talk to you about is the Advanced Technological Education Program, which is our ATE program. This also is focused in 2-year colleges, but it's focused on technician education. So some may think about our community colleges having both the academic side, and I say academic in quotes because I believe both of them are academic sides, but they have educational pathways that students come in and earn their associate's degree with the expectation that they will go on, or with the possibility of going on and transferring or attending a 4-year college. So I think about that as more the associate's degree. For our applied associate's degrees, these are the ones that are focused more on the technician and technician training spaces. So the ATE program focuses on that space. We just had a deadline for the ATE program earlier this month. The next deadline will happen next October, early October typically. So these the deadline for the ATE program is typically the first week of October. To give you a little bit more information about the ATE program, next slide. There are 5 tracks. One of our most popular tracks is the small projects for institutions new to ATE. And these are on the few $100,000 scale. So our smaller projects for new institutions that are just beginning their foray into funding for the technician training. We also have our larger ATE projects, which are the larger scale. These are for maybe our more veteran or seasoned programs that have had an ATE project before, and they're looking at either expanding or strengthening any one of their technician training programs. We have also our consortia for innovations in technician education. So we know how important partnerships are and how critical it is to working with other institutions. So we also have an opportunity for consortia to really build up those innovations and explore new ways in which we can improve technician education. We have ATE centers, and these are very large projects on the order of multi-million-dollar projects that are focused in a specific area. And I'll talk about one of them in the next slide. And then we also have applied research on technician education. This is our last track in the ATE program that is focused on research in technician education. Like, are there ways in which, is there new knowledge that we can explore on how we train our technicians, how we educate our technicians? So 5 tracks for the ATE program. We accept all proposals. We accept proposals in all tracks every October. Now, there is a limit on what kinds of centers we are looking for, or not limit, there's a specification on what kinds of centers we look for, because the centers are focused in a specific technology domain. So you have to check out the solicitation to see which domain we're looking for the specific deadline. If you go to the next slide. One of our center examples that I alluded to is the Innovate Bio, which is located there, which is located in Houston, Texas. And the Innovate Bio is focused on biotechnology and technician training in the biotechnology space. I should also mention that all of our ATE projects have an expectation that you partner with industry, because there's no reason to train technicians if you're not expecting them to go and contribute to some industry partner, or in some specific industry. So it's really important that that when putting together your proposals for ATE, that you have strong industry collaborations. And Innovate Bio is one of the examples of one of our centers that have tight and close industry collaborations with the biotechnology sector. If you can go on to the next slide. Our lead program officer, so the primary point of contact is Celeste Carter. Her email is there on the slide. You should feel very comfortable reaching out to Celeste. Once again, just like Kaylin, if you can't reach them, or if they will direct you to the appropriate program officer that may be more relevant to your specific discipline. Next slide. The last program I'm going to talk to you about is our STEM program. And our STEM program is focused on scholarships for low-income students in STEM. So as STEM stands for Scholarships in Science, Technology, Engineering, and Mathematics program. The deadline for the STEM program is coming up this February. And one of the exciting things that I love about the STEM program is that this program really does provide opportunities for students who would not have had the opportunity, would not have had the support if it weren't for this STEM program. Because this is a scholarship program, we provide awards to institutions that then provide scholarships to their students. The scholarships, the STEM disciplines that we cover are all STEM disciplines supported by the National Science Foundation. I will say there is an expectation that you show that there is a need for the discipline that you are training the students in. So if you're applying for a STEM program, unlike ATE where there is an expectation that you partner with industry, for the STEM program, there is an expectation that there's a demand or a need in this space, but not that partnership with industry is necessary. Can you go to the next slide? All 2-year and 4-year institutions that are accredited are eligible to apply for this program. We have 3 tracks. We have an institutional capacity building track. We have a single institutional track and interinstitutional or consortia track. So we see that there are, if you're just getting started and this might be your first foray into applying for a program like this, then the institutional capacity building track is probably the best bet. There are our smaller awards. Our next level awards are the single institution, and then our larger awards. And our smaller awards are in the order of $2 million. When I say for the single institution, we're talking about a $2 million, $1.5–2 million award size. And then our consortia awards are on the order of $3.5 million. So they get larger. The reason why those award amounts are so much because we recognize that it is important to provide scholarship support. And the idea is that we are meeting the financial need of these students, that these are academically talented students that would otherwise may not be able to attend college if it weren't for the scholarship opportunity. Not only is it important to provide funds for the students, but we do also have the expectation that there are wraparound support programs for our students. So it's not just here's the money, go do well. It is here's the money and here are all these other types of investments that we will make in enriching and enhancing your undergraduate educational experience. And I said undergraduate, the STEM program is also available for graduate study too. Can you go to the next slide? And I'm going to provide 2 examples of awards that are actually right there in your district. So Our Lady of the Lake University has one of our STEM awards, and they are funding 20 scholars to pursue their bachelor's degree in chemistry, biology, chemical biology, mathematics, biomathematics, and computer and information systems and security. So looking, as you can envision, these are high demand fields, and it's great to be able to provide students majoring in those disciplines with financial support. We also, they have, as I mentioned, they have wraparound services. So there's seminars, there's a living learning community, there's peer tutoring, career counseling, and multi-tiered mentoring. So not just, like I said, not just providing funds, but also thinking about all of the things that can enrich a student's academic experience. And then last slide, and I've been talking quite a bit. I apologize. I'm about to turn it over to you, Jolene. Our last slide is another Texas A&M San Antonio award that is another example of another STEM. And this time they are actually funding 33 full-time students. So I've gone way over my time. I'm going to turn it over to you, Jolene, to talk. Tom Kim is the point of contact. So please feel free to reach out to him if you have any questions or want to explore more of the program.
Right. Hi, everyone. I am Jolene Jesse. I'm currently the Acting Division Director for the Division for Research on Learning in Formal and Informal Settings, or DRL for short. Our focus is on research and development and assessment of learning at all ages and in all contexts, both formal and informal. Most of our portfolio explores learning in pre-K-12 and informal contexts. We cover everything from how people learn from what's going on in the brain to how culture influences learning, what's going on in the learning environment, what is the impact of curriculum, pedagogy, and teacher practice, as well as how each and every student has equitable opportunities to learn and engage in STEM. I'm going to be discussing two of our programs today, the Advancing Informal STEM Learning Program, or AISL, and the Innovative Technology Experiences for Students and Teachers, or ITEST programs. In addition to these two programs, DRL is also the home to the programs Discovery Research Pre-K-12, or DRK-12, Computer Science for All, our EDU Core Research Program, and our Research on Innovative Technologies for Education and Learning, as well as other opportunities. And I'm happy to speak with you offline about any of those at any time. So next slide, please. So our AISL program supports research and development opportunities on learning in informal settings only. So this is not in your classroom. This is informal learning environments exclusively. In this sense, it truly is pre-K through grade, as Roz said earlier, from children through adults, covering any learning experience that is outside the classroom. So that includes media, it includes citizen science, learning in museums, libraries, community gardens, homes, and even on the sidewalk. The current solicitation is NSF 22626 with a deadline of January 10th, which sounds like it's far away, but it's like just around the corner. So if you have a project idea, you're going to want to contact a program officer really fast. Next slide, please. So AISL's goals include fostering learning in informal settings. We want to understand how learning works, how it happens in informal settings, and we want to increase the knowledge around what works in informal settings. So we are definitely focused on understanding equity, belonging, and effective approaches to broadening participation. AISL has a relatively new emphasis on research and development that is consciously community and practitioner driven. So this is where the research itself is co-designed by those who are part of the teaching and learning experience. AISL also funds professional development and capacity building and the networks and infrastructure needed to ensure a broad reach for learning innovations. And of course, underlying everything is learning and the learners. So yeah, next slide, please. So here's a great example of an AISL project being done at SMU. Seeing the world through a mathematical lens is using augmented reality technologies and cell phones to foster mathematical learning in everyday environments. Remember when I said informal settings could be sidewalks? Well, this project allows users to hold up their cell phone cameras and take pictures and video and have a mathematical overlay to them. The camera captures lines, squares, and other mathematical concepts that are layered over the image, and users can create their own math walks and upload pictures, descriptions, even link it to audio narration that poses questions and tells mathematical stories about what appears in their surroundings. So it's a really cool project. The next slide, please. Another AISL project example is being conducted by UT Health Houston. Breaking stereotypes through cultural relevant storytelling engages students in grades K through 5 and their families, mostly from Latino and African American communities, with out of school time programming. So OST is the acronym we use for out of school time. So it's not during the school day or in the school setting. This project allows these students to explore storytelling as a component of their STEM learning. So part of the project's activities include building capacity among OST educators to deliver STEM content more effectively. Next slide, please. So here you go to contact a program officer, because we have so many program officers that are in the AISL program. Send an email to drlaisl@nsf.gov with a brief description of your project idea, and a program officer with the appropriate expertise will then set up a meeting with you to discuss. So it's not required that you talk with a program officer before you submit, but it is highly, highly recommended because we can help you with your ideas, And make sure that you're aware of all the guidelines and what makes for a successful proposal. So really use that opportunity to come in and talk to a program officer. Next slide. So the Innovative Technology Experiences for Students and Teachers, or ITEST program, is one of our more applied research program that funds research and development in the area of K through 12 workforce development. And yes, it's K through 12 workforce development. It's a thing. It's at the K through 12 level that students really engage in their first steps of doing STEM work and beginning a lifelong love of STEM. So ITEST focuses mostly on information and communication technologies, often in interdisciplinary ways with other STEM fields. So ITEST projects must be technology-based, but think about biotech, geotech, or engineering tech. All of those would fall under ITEST. So the current solicitation is NSF 22585, and the deadline is August 9th, 2024. So you have lots of opportunity right now to develop your ideas and talk with a program officer. Next slide, please. So ITEST has the overarching goal of increasing the nation's technological workforce to maintain our competitiveness on the global stage. It does it in the K through 12 environment. Some of the programs that Roz spoke of also have that as a goal, and we all work kind of collaboratively together. ITEST focuses is on emerging STEM and ICT careers, including projects that focus on cutting-edge technology areas like quantum computing, AI, data science, biotech, and other areas. And again, the focus is on technology, but it can be across any STEM field. The program has 3 pillars, and each proposal submitted must address each of these 3 pillars. The first one is projects must use an innovative technology in teaching and learning. Projects should include a partnership, and that can be with any entity. It can be a partnership with schools, school districts, local and state or tribal governments, nonprofits and community organizations, business or industry, or really any partners that provide technological learning in context. And they should also, projects also absolutely need to focus on educational equity. Next slide, please. So a couple of examples of ITEST projects include the Empower Math Teachers with an AI tool for auto generation of tech-enhanced assessment. This project is usually using large language modeling tools in high school mathematics classes, so teachers can create real-time assessments that measure deep mathematics learning and higher order thinking skills among students. This project is being led by a multidisciplinary team that includes educators, learning science researchers, K through 12 teacher educators, and AI experts and tool developers. Next slide, please. So the Using Media and Texting to Foster STEM Learning in Low-Income and Latino Families is expanding an existing award-winning PBS children's television shows, Cyber Chase, and enabling this show to become truly bilingual. There are now new bilingual characters, and bilingual text messaging engages families in STEM activities in their homes and communities. STEM resources are also available to families for free. Next slide, please. So again, to contact a program officer, please send an email to drlitest@nsf.gov. Again, give a brief description of your project idea. We'll get back to you very quickly with a program officer with the appropriate expertise. And it's always highly, highly encouraged that you speak to a program officer before you submit a proposal. And I believe that's it from me. And I'm handing it over to Jeremy.
Great, thanks, Jolene, and Roz for talking about those very specific programs. And so my name's Jeremy Leffler. I work in the policy office at NSF. And if you're inspired by those programs, if your interest has been piqued to be able, and you're at the point where you're thinking, I'd like to submit a proposal to one of those programs, in my brief time here today, I'm going to let you know kind of at a very high level, what you need to know before you do that. So I'm going to talk just a little bit about the entire process, what happens to your proposal when it comes to NSF, and then we can open it up for questions. If you can move to the next slide. So this is a representation of the entire process, and I would call your attention to the bottom of this screen, which kind of gives you a sense of the timeline for this entire process. So NSF will give you a minimum of 90 days from the time an opportunity is announced until there is a deadline date. Now, some programs have deadlines, but not all do. So again, you want to make sure you're looking at that funding opportunity very closely. You'll see that's a theme throughout my brief talk here, is that you really want to make sure you're reading that funding opportunity closely. Once your proposal is received by NSF, it gets assigned to external reviewers. And then that whole review process happens, and program officers within this 6-month period that it's taking for the review to happen are making will then make a recommendation based on the reviews that they receive. That process, again, can take upwards of 6 months. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's a little longer. That's what we strive for. When a program officer makes a funding recommendation, that goes to a division director, who then concurs or does not concur with that recommendation. If it is recommended for an award, it then goes to our Division of Grants and Agreements, and it can take up to 30 days for that award to be made. The other thing I want to highlight in this process, and this is very quick, I realize that there's a lot of moving parts in all of these different boxes here, is that when an award is made, it is made in almost all cases to an institution, not to an individual. So we do have some postdoctoral fellowship programs, some of which are made to individuals, but other than those, these are NSF awards are made to institutions or organizations. Next slide, please. So after you've read that funding opportunity and you're really excited, you want to submit a proposal to that funding opportunity, the next thing you really want to do is look at the NSF Proposal and Award Policies and Procedures Guide. We call it the PAP Guide for short. This is an incredibly important document because it is going to tell you everything you need to know about preparing your proposal and submitting it to NSF. The other thing I want to let you know is that this document is updated yearly, so you want to make sure you're looking at the most recent version. It is divided into 2 parts. Part 1 talks about all the required components of an NSF proposal, how you need to structure your proposal, and then part 2 talks about your requirements once you receive an award from NSF. So it's going to talk about reporting requirements. It's going to talk about how you engage with NSF during the course of your award. The next slide, please. So as I just mentioned, this document is going to tell you everything you need to know. It tells you, again, how to structure your proposal, it's going to tell you how your proposal is reviewed at NSF, what the criteria are, and it will explain why NSF might return your proposal without review. There are a number of reasons why that might happen, and they are all explained in this guide. It explains, if you need to withdraw your proposal. It includes all of the policies you and your institution need to know, as I mentioned, about reporting requirements, notifying NSF about unique circumstances surrounding your awards, and so forth. Let's go to the next slide, please. So whatever funding opportunity you are submitting a proposal to, you want to make sure you understand a few key components in that funding opportunity. And there were a number of examples given today of funding opportunities from the STEM Education Directorate. First, look at the goal of the program as it is written in that specific funding opportunity. Does your research fit within that goal? The second is eligibility. Now, eligibility was mentioned on a number of different programs that were mentioned today. There could be a number of reasons why you, as a principal investigator, as a researcher, or there might be something about your institution that you are associated with, where you work, might make you either eligible or ineligible to submit to certain opportunities. So you want to make sure you understand if you can even submit a proposal before you do all the work. Just noting a couple of examples, the IUSE program, for example, has institutional eligibility requirements, and some of the other programs like the ITEST program don't have more restrictive eligibility requirements than are identified in the proposal and award procedures guide. The third thing you want to make sure is that you're meeting any special proposal preparation or award requirements that are specific to that funding opportunity. So there may be additional documents that you need to submit, and that is why it's so important to read those funding opportunities, those program solicitations carefully, because they're going to tell you what, in addition to the proposal and award policies and procedures guide, do you need to include for that proposal? Okay, next slide. So here are some quick reminders when preparing proposals, and a lot of these may seem quite obvious, but our experience is that even some of the most obvious things are occasionally skipped. Again, read the program, the funding opportunity that you're applying to. Talk to a program officer. That was mentioned a few times today. If you have a question about that funding opportunity, the responsible program officers are identified in there with their phone numbers and their emails. Reach out to them and ask questions. We want to make sure that you understand the requirements before you submit it. You want to understand the merit review process. You want to know what happens to that proposal when it comes to NSF. A funding opportunity will include the standard review criteria, but it may also have specialized review criteria, and you want to make sure that your proposal is addressing all of them. Obviously, try not to have omissions and mistakes or typos. Get feedback from colleagues. Having other colleagues look at your proposal can provide you with feedback. They're fresh eyes on something you've been looking at over and over again. You know, if you feel like you really don't want to show it to other people before you submit it, well, guess what we're going to do as soon as we get your proposal? We're going to show it to other people. We're going to, as part of our external review process, we are going to have other people review and comment on your proposal. Next slide, please. So when reviewers are looking at proposals, we're asking them to assess the risk and benefit of the research that's being proposed. This is done through the two National Science Board approved merit review criteria of intellectual merit and broader impacts. So intellectual merit, the intellectual merit criterion encompasses the potential to advance knowledge, and the broader impacts criterion is the potential to benefit society. There's a lot of information on this in the PAP guide. I'd encourage you to take a look at this because we try and set the context for these criteria, and that is described within the PAP guide. Okay, so do take a look at that, and we'll go to the next slide, please. So I mentioned, you know, the external reviewers. So what is that? What is the role of the reviewer? So again, they're charged with assessing the merit review criteria and any other additional criteria that are relevant to a specific solicitation in reading your proposal. They consider the adequacy of the proposed project, including the budget, resources, capacity of those involved, and the timeline for the research. And they consider potential risks and benefits to the project. Next slide, please. So how do we come to these funding decisions? So reviewers are going to provide recommendations about the proposal to program officers, including feedback regarding the strengths and weaknesses of the proposals. Program officers then make a funding recommendation. Those recommendations are really guided by the goals of the program. I talked about this a little bit in kind of showing you that overview of the process. Program officers are looking at the balance among the portfolio and other considerations like a high risk or potential high reward. And the program officers are making a recommendation to either fund or decline. So that is not a decision that is made by the reviewers. That is a decision that is made by program officers at NSF. Next slide, please. So here are a list of some possible considerations for funding a competitive proposal. This is not a complete list, but there's some things to consider. Program officers are looking at the potential impact of the proposal and the balance across the different fields. They look at the potential for the proposal to enhance and broaden the participation of underrepresented groups in that field. They look at the educational impact as well as the impact on the institution and the state. There are certain programs that are treated a little differently. So the career program, for example, is targeted towards expanding early career faculty. There are RUI or research at undergraduate institution programs that are targeting undergraduate institution programs. There are EPSCoR programs which target a certain subset of states that have less funding overall compared to other states. These programs have some special concentrations and criteria for what might be considered for an award. Program officers also look at other support that the PI currently has. And so these are things and looking at a portfolio balance of a given program to make sure that we are looking across the spectrum of funding, both at different types of institutions, at different levels of experience of faculty, and so forth. There's a lot of thought that goes into maintaining a portfolio balance. Next slide, please. So this is a lot. I understand this is a lot to think about as you're thinking about preparing a proposal to NSF. What I would say is that NSF has a lot of resources for you if you're new to NSF, if you have questions about the process. My office puts together a NSF grants conference for the foundation. These are virtual no-cost sessions that you can attend live or on demand. The image on this screen says that the last one was June 5th to 8th. That's true. The next one coming up is December 4th through 7th. Registration will open on November 8th. If you go to this nsfpolicyoutreach.com page, you will find a wealth of resources on videos on demand, on doing deeper dives into many of the topics that I touched on today. And so I would recommend that you engage with NSF in the many other outreach opportunities that we have. And finally, become a reviewer. The best way to understand NSF is to become a reviewer, to see what makes a good proposal, to gain insight into the process. And the way to do that is to contact an NSF program officer for the area that you have expertise in, volunteer to be a reviewer, and get engaged with NSF and the process. And that is all for me. I'm sure we'd be happy to take any questions if you have some. So I'll turn it back over to Jasmine.
All right. If you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat. It's a small group today, so you're also welcome to just unmute and ask. or use the raise hand function. And if there are no questions right now, I mean, we're happy to take those at a later time. You can send them over to me and I can direct them to our NSF folks here. But yes, if you have any questions, now's the time to ask. Ross?
Jeremy, can I ask you a question? Because the PAPPG is such a big document, if I'm a new investigator, if I'm thinking about writing a proposal to NSF, is there something that I should specifically be looking at, or are there certain sections that might be more relevant than others, or?
Well,
it's big.
it's big. I would focus on part one, which is really about preparing your proposal. But if you are a newer faculty member at an institution, the first thing I would do is reach out to your sponsored projects office, because they may have resources already for you on submitting a proposal to NSF from your organization. But then also look at some of the, we have some sessions that are an hour and a half on proposal preparation that are on demand. They're great overview sessions that really follow the outline of the PAP guide at a high level and give you some good insight into that.
Thank you very much.
I have a quick question. So when we're looking at awards on the site, is it appropriate for someone to reach out to y'all and ask for an introduction to like the point of contact if there's no contact info for like a previously awarded grant? How would, and I guess part of that is a bigger question of like, how would we be able to engage with folks who have already gotten grants, right? Just to hear from their perspective on how it's gone, or if they're a newbie, or, you know what I mean? Like, where would we go to find opportunities like that?
Yeah, so I'll say that every PI's contact information is available. If you do a quick award search in our award search and you have a specific area, say it's biotechnology and education, you can do a quick keyword search. You can bring up abstracts of proposal of awards that we have out there, and the PI's contact information is right there, as well as the program officer's contact information. So you can do either. You can contact the program officer and say, hey, I'm really interested in a project in this area, and they might link you with somebody who's already been awarded in that area, or you can go directly to the PI. Because their information is public information, you can send an email. I don't remember if phone numbers are there, but I do know their email addresses are on the abstracts, and you can contact them directly, and I encourage you to do that. It's always good to connect with colleagues, and it also, you never know what that might lead to a new partnership or a new collaboration. So definitely reach out.
All right, any other questions? Okay, and I do plan to, so this session is being recorded, so we will have the recording of this segment posted on our grants website, as well as distributed in our grants newsletter. If you want any more information on the upcoming virtual grants conference, we'll be sure to send out a reminder in the newsletter when registration opens in November. We would also send the recording to all of our participants and the folks that could not make it today, just so you have it with you. So it'll be accessible no matter what. But if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me here in the office, and I will direct them to whoever might be best appropriate for that. Other than that, thank you so much to our NSF guests today. Appreciate your time and all of the really helpful information you presented to us. And I'm sure we'll have some follow-up questions after the recording gets distributed. So thank you so much and enjoy the rest of your day.
You're very welcome.
Thanks very much.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Bye, y'all.